We're back.
We're back again.
And today we're going to open up with taking advice, who to take advice from. And you can open with a story you were sharing about someone that you took advice from, unexpected, right? It was someone you didn't
I didn't think
necessarily.
much of him,
Yeah.
but he gave me the best advice. Yeah, I can.
If you
So,
can open with that, because I've also heard, like, careful who you take advice from.
yeah, Cardone says that. Cardone says that all the time
Yeah.
because he's saying, look, you got people that never truly opened a business, never truly ran their own business.
Mm-hmm.
Everything they've learned has been from the books.
Yeah.
So how do you take advice from someone that hasn't really truly gone through
Right.
through the business, like what he's gone through? He's gone through a lot. So he speaks with authority in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the story that you're talking about is I worked for this big insurance company, and there were a lot of agents. And back in the day, we would have a lot of meetings. Every time a new product was coming out or a product was being tweaked, whatever. And there was this gentleman. He had been with the company way before me, so he was already seasoned. He knew a lot of stuff about the company, and he was a good salesman. He he sold a lot of life insurance, which is one of the things the company wanted. So he did good.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think much of him because I thought, I saw him as very selfish at times. Um, there were things that he did that, you know, I, I just thought they were of weak character. A couple of things that he would say, it's just, we didn't click. He wasn't, I know for a fact I wasn't in his favorite group, okay? Because that's usually a two-way street. If you don't particularly care much for someone, okay, I stay away from them because I don't want to be in the same group with them. I don't want to be disrespectful or whatever, and so but I'm sure that the feeling was mutual, and I know that it was. We were totally separate. He didn't care for me, I didn't care for him. But one day, there's a meeting, and the chairs at the table and everything have been taken. There was one chair to the left of me, empty. And this gentleman comes in, and he was late. The meeting was about to get started. And so the only chair available was next to me. And he sits next to me. And I remember when he sat next to me, I thought, oh man, you know? But, and then the meeting started, and it was about, they were taking away a product that I enjoyed a lot and that I did very well with and that I sold a lot of. And they were tweaking it. But in that tweak, they were diminishing sales big time because they were essentially, to a certain extent, killing it. Okay, and they say, okay, we're gonna break for 10 minutes, and we broke for 10 minutes, and I stayed in the chair because I knew it was gonna affect me economically quite a bit, and so did him. And I said, man, this is terrible, and this and that. I'm going to try to see who I can talk to, and so forth and so on. And he turned to me, and he gave me the best piece of advice anyone could have ever given me at that moment. And he said, look, Pablo, I've been with the company long enough to know that when they want to get rid of a product, there is absolutely nothing you can do to change that. That decision, by the time it gets to us, has already been made higher up. You got higher management, middle management, lower management. By the time it gets to us, the sales force, that decision is already casted in stone. Don't buck the company. That's what he said. Don't buck the company. find another product that you like, that you can excel on, and give your energies to that. Don't try to change this thing because you're going to go down a road that's got no end. And the minute he gave me that advice, I had been with the company long enough that I knew that it was a huge piece of gold nugget, a pearl, because I was willing to fight it. I was willing to bring all this information that I had to management to show them, hey, listen, this and that and whatever. And he saved me a lot of grief, okay? Because he was right. That decision had already been made.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that because I didn't think much of the guy. And yet he had a moment of clarity with me and he decided to give me that pearl. And he really helped me a lot. And, you know, moving forward, he still had his kinks in the character as far as I'm concerned. He probably thought I had kinks in mine. You know, nobody's perfect. So what am I doing throwing rocks, right? But we never clicked, and we never clicked again. You know, that was just one moment, you know, isolated moment that he sat next to me because it was the only chair in the room left. And it's just amazing. So it taught me that you can learn things from absolutely anyone, you know, if the setting is right. And so it was something interesting to me.
Yeah. It sounds like from his experience, the company wasn't having like an open forum before they made the decision. They're just, this is what it is, and you were gonna spend a lot of time and energy fighting it or trying to, you know, keep that product. But his experience said, just run with it. And that seems like there's several people that take that approach. Like, look, if you want to do well at this corporation, roll with the punches.
Yeah.
And just go with what they say.
You know, later on in the insurance industry, you know, they have this word that they throw out a lot, appetite. Figure out what's the appetite for the company. You know, there's certain products that different companies will have an appetite for. Like, for example, some people like to insure young drivers. Other people don't like to insure young drivers. Other people like to insure classic cars. Other companies don't like to insure classic cars.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to figure out what's the appetite for that particular carrier. And he was dead on. Okay, he was dead on. Because later on, with more experience and more years, I realized that they come out with the idea, we're going to tweak this product because it's too harsh to tell the sales force, we're going to get rid of this product 100%.
Yeah.
Okay? But we're going to tweak it a little bit because it's not performing like we want it. But by doing that little tweaking of the product, to a certain extent, you're killing it because you're changing the product.
Or one of the things they can do is change the compensation.
There you go.
Which I was listening to Bet David yesterday, Patrick Bet David, talking about how Bally Total Fitness used to be a huge gym, and he was working there at the time. Bally's? Yeah, Bally's, I think.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah. And then he says that one of the big things was that they started changing the compensation. That's where it began, the downfall. One guy left, a big guy left, another one left, and before you know it, they're no longer around. But we've seen compensation change in different industries, but in the insurance industry, compensation is constantly changing, and it usually goes down. Whether it's life insurance, whether it's home auto insurance. So but if they change the compensation for a certain product, you know, you're not gonna have as many people sell it if they're not gonna get compensated properly for the amount of effort it takes to sell.
Correct. It usually takes a lot of effort. So you know, well, you experienced it. You saw how different products, and also for the line of business that you were in as a specialist, right? They changed conversation on you. You
Yeah.
just
Yeah, there was a time where before I started, I mean, I was in the insurance industry, but before I started working in life insurance, where people were making, the agents were making over 100% commission, which that's, I mean, you're making 110, 120%.
that's amazing.
So you write a policy that is, $1,000 a year, you're making 1,200, more or less, right? But that's long gone. But yeah, they just, the industry changes and you have to adapt. And like the gentleman we met this morning, which is really cool, he's said he was 40 years in the fitness equipment business. Imagine
Yes.
all the changes. And he was buying weights at like, what, 30 cents a pound,
I
or
think he said 30 cents a pound,
30 cents a pound, something along those lines.
maybe even less.
Maybe less.
Yeah.
But that it's gone up astronomical,
Yeah,
over
like-
the last,
Like $2.50 a pound, or $2.90, right?
I don't remember what he said it went up, but everything's gone up. And you
Everything's
just have
gone
to
up.
figure out how to adapt and how to change.
Right, right.
And I think it's interesting that you say that you took that advice and ran with it, even though it was from somebody that you didn't really respect.
I didn't think much of the guy.
Which,
you know?
that's interesting, because sometimes if you don't think much of somebody, you may not give them. But if you're open to listening to people, you just never know where you might get a good piece of advice or a good idea.
Yeah.
The problem is you can't listen to everybody, and you need to be able to like filter out the people that maybe want to do you harm and are giving you bad advice. Like
Camouflage as a good advice.
remember in Robert Greene, in one of his books, says you can test somebody's loyalty or friendship by telling them bad advice and seeing their reaction. Or I'm sorry, telling them bad news about you. Yeah, I'm
that's
sorry.
right. Not
Yeah,
bad
yeah.
advice.
He
Yeah,
says
bad news.
He says intentionally tell them bad news about you, and see how they react. Do they smirk a little bit? Do their eyes change? Holy moly! I mean, now you're looking at
I wouldn't want to do that.
no, but those are different strategies that he,
Right.
he's
Yeah,
talking
he
about.
said that. He says that, because, Jordan Peterson says, be careful who you tell good news
Mm-hmm.
to.
Yeah.
And also be careful who you tell bad news to. But because he says, be careful who you tell good news to, because you want to tell good news to someone who is appreciative and grateful for you to receive those benefits.
Right.
You don't want to tell good news to someone that's going to be thinking, oh, how come he's so lucky? Or why does that happen to him or her? How come it doesn't happen to me? You want someone to glow in your good nature, in your good tidings.
Yeah.
So be careful who you tell, good news to.
Sure.
And in essence, it's similar to what you said about Robert Greene, because what Robert Greene is saying, look, if you tell someone bad news about something that happened to you, if they say, oh, I'm sorry, but before they say that, they have like a little, he says, the side of their lips.
Yeah, like the smile.
Like a
or,
little, oh, that happened to you. Oh, I'm sorry. Then you're going
It's
to be able to
interesting.
pick it up.
Yeah.
I hear Robert Greene, and sometimes maybe you have to do that. I was just reading something about the Roman Empire, and they definitely did that. There was this emperor that fell ill. His name was Caligula, and he fell ill. Apparently, for 3 months, he went into a coma. It was called a brain fever or something like that.
Wow.
And one of his top guard, his first guard, Praetorian Guard or something, his number one man, went to his adopted son and told him, hey, he may not come out of this. And if he doesn't come out of this, we should tell the Senate that you're ready to accept, you know, the post that he has because you're next in line. And they actually did that. Well, lo and behold, Caligula came out of that stupor, you know. And not to make the story too long, they paid with their lives.
Who did?
The Caligula's adopted son and the Praetorian Guard, the number one guy.
Wow.
Caligula killed him. Yeah.
Jeez.
He couldn't kill the adopted son because he was part of the royal family, and so the royal family, he could not get rid of someone just like that. So, as I read, he had him execute himself with help with one of the guards. They turned that sword on him, and his hands were on it, and
whoa,
let's go. And then on the other one, the top-notch number one man by his side, the Praetorian Guard, I think I'm saying it wrong, pronouncing it wrong. He was ambushed in the forest, and also taken out.
Yeah.
So you got to make very.
You got to be careful.
Well, Caligula was a madman, you know. History says that after he came out of that brain fever situation where he was in a coma for 2 months or 3 months, something ridiculous like that, and they didn't think he was going to make it, but he did come out of it. And because these actions had been taken, these two people paid with their lives.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's no joke, guys.
No.
It's no joke.
There was something that an extended family member used to say, which I thought was really interesting. And it has to do with who you share things with. And it was the idea that, let's say, a husband and a wife are bickering or having an issue, and they go and tell the mom. Let's say the daughter goes and tells the mom, hey, mom, I'm having this issue with my husband. We're not seeing eye to eye and this and that. And then she would say, after a certain point, she said, I don't want to hear anymore, right? I don't want to hear anymore that you have issues with your husband because you go back and you guys make up and you forget about it. Everything's fine and dandy.
But I keep that resentment.
Right, because she doesn't forgive the son-in-law in that situation. And so that's pretty smart of her to,
she called it quits early in the story.
Right, because she doesn't want to hear maybe unless it's like a real problem then, but any issues you have, try and resolve them yourselves, because when you share it with somebody, they can take that load on too now.
Sure.
And they're going to be concerned or what's happening, and are they did they resolve it, or so you have to be really careful. That's one thing about like rumors and chisme and sharing things about people. Things can gossip can just maybe it's based on some sort of truth, a certain piece of it, but it can get so distorted so quickly. I try to stay away from it as much as possible. If somebody says, oh, did you hear about this? Or you want to know what happened here? Sometimes, no, I really don't. Because it's not the source. It may be true, maybe not. Most of the time, it's not a good thing.
It's not your thing.
No, but some people do thrive and they feed off of, and it gives them energy, drama.
Oh, yeah.
Some people need drama in their life.
Absolutely. That's why you have that famous little saying about keep the drama for your mama. I've heard that say a lot of times to people.
Yeah.
And
but some people like it.
Yeah.
They create it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, this person looked at me weird, or this, that, and whatever, and all of a sudden it's drama. It's a lot of time and energy. I just rather spend it in other ways. But, everybody's got to choose the way that they want to handle things. And
But you see how things have developed because look, and from the Roman Empire, these two guys paid with their lives. Okay?
Yeah.
Now it's not so drastic. You're not gonna pay with your life, but you're gonna there's always going to be a cost. Maybe advancing faster at a job place, or maybe not getting a promotion, or especially in the corporate world. I'm
Yeah.
watching this thing now called The Diplomat. Oh my God.
It's a what series?
It's a series and it's just one. I mean, these folks are thinking about every angle in trying to, we're talking about politics
Mm.
and international affairs and how one move precedes another. And I mean, it's
A game of chess.
incredible. It's called The Diplomat. It's incredible. And I mean, it's just one thing. And you really have to pay attention to the episode
Yeah.
to really, really understand. I mean, they're throwing out, whoever wrote it is brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, it, but there's a lot of dirty stuff going
Games
on.
that are played.
Oh,
It goes everywhere.
tremendous.
It's in everything. And
The
that's why I think
politics seem to be so entrenched with it.
oh yeah. That's why I think like we were talking a little earlier like there are some people that they're people of their word, man of your word, woman of their word. And I was saying, hey, we didn't hear back from this so and so, right? And I was like, and you were saying, well, that means they're not interested.
That's an answer.
Not hearing back from someone means they're not interested.
Yeah, that's
And I
a
said-
no.
And I said, yeah, but if I were them, I would just make a call or a text and say, hey, I'm not interested. And put closure to that.
Well, that's you, but a lot of
Right.
people don't.
A lot of people don't do that.
No.
But it's so easy that they don't do it. Maybe they're extremely busy, etc. But I think it's common decency and like just respect for the other person. If you say you're gonna do something, we've shared it in a previous one. We've had people say you've handed them your business card, and they say I'm gonna call you today. Nowhere to be found.
To this day, they haven't called.
So the problem is that now you're not a person of your word, and even though it's a small gesture, and we'll run into them again, and maybe everything's cool, but you'll never forget that he said
they're not
he
gonna
was
get
going
my
to call you
business.
back.
No, they're not going to get my business.
Yeah, because you were giving him business,
Right.
but
He never
you'll
called.
never forget that.
And there's been several. I know we're thinking about the same one right now, but there's been several. The other day,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to call you and take
The-
a picture and all this stuff.
There's for
Yeah.
me, like especially like when I refer somebody for something, or like when I recommend somebody, hey, this person's good for the job. For me, with one complaint, I get if they complain about the person if the client I referred complains about the person that I recommended, I get I look into it, what happened here, and if I see it happens more than once from different clients, I
That's
cut
it.
it. Yeah, because when you recommend somebody, you're putting your name on it.
Of course.
You're putting you're backing it up, even though
Well, if they mess up, it's your. I mean, you recommend it.
because where did this guy come from?
Yeah, where'd he come
came
from?
from Mike.
Yeah. So you get
go
run down.
down.
Just you go down the hill with them.
That's why some people don't recommend at all,
Right.
and some people recommend 3.
Yeah.
Always recommend, if you're gonna recommend, always recommend 3.
Right. And the
3
thing is
people.
that you're not at your best game every day of the week.
Yeah.
And we see it here. Sometimes we make an extra effort to do the podcast, but we try always to, the question you always ask me, are you feeling it?
Absolutely.
Are you feeling it? Are you really?
Yeah.
And
Because it shows
yeah, most of the time, yeah, it
for
will
both
show
of us.
for both
For
whoever. Yeah,
anybody.
well, we're human.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, sometimes you got to push through also when you're not feeling something, you push through. Right? So, but yeah, going back to, look, if you say you're going to do something,
Do it.
I think, and that's why I was saying, you're saying, well, a lot of people are like that. Most people are like that, especially in business or in the real estate industry or certain industries. There's a lot of people like that. There are few that aren't, and that's why they stand out.
Correct. So, I'll tell you what I do. I know that it only takes me a very brief moment
Correct.
to get that out,
Yeah.
either in the form of a text, mostly is texting or email. Sometimes I'll make a call,
Yeah.
but mostly in the form of a text or email. So I do it.
Yeah.
But for self-satisfaction.
Right. But also, it's a small world, and you will probably run into that person again.
Potentially, yeah.
And you can forgive, but never forget.
Right.
You'll never forget that that person wasn't someone of their word.
Well,
And
if I run into their business, if I run into them and we end up doing a deal together, I will always be apprehensive.
Yeah.
Because I've had that prior experience. Now,
Right.
let's say I run into anybody that I haven't met before. We are always dotting our I's and crossing our T's.
Sure.
Because,
Yeah.
we're in a business where you really, truly can't falter.
Yeah.
You really can't. It's
But it for me, it's also a sign of, if you can't do a simple test like that of calling somebody back when you say you will, what other things in life are you not prepared for? And like, look, we were talking about it earlier. I was saying, and you have brought it up, and I was saying, I need to do a better job at certain things and preparing certain things and kind of planning ahead, right? And what if you're faulty in one thing, where else in your life is it reflecting? You talked about Grant Cardone. He says that when he had that one show where he was interviewing people to work for him, he would go check their car.
oh my God.
And if their car was a mess, then you don't get the job. So I know I could clean my car better. But
Same here.
one thing
Although
that
my car looks pretty good, actually.
your car's always clean.
Yeah, it's always good.
One thing that is a pet peeve somewhat of mine, or something that I've always thought of, is tardiness.
Right.
And so, when it comes to business, we got to be there early. And early means, it could mean 30. Like, we had an appointment yesterday at 2:00. We were there at 1:20.
Yeah. Just to prep.
Just to prep. You're not in a rush.
Right. Well, we had to open the building up and turn the
Right.
lights on and all that. So, yeah.
And so,
Yeah, I don't want to get there at the same time the other person's getting there. Let it air out if it's been stuffy, Put
But-
some music on.
but that's
Make
a business.
it appealing.
Yes, but that's a business setting. But I also apply it to other things. If it's a birthday party,
Same
and,
here.
and it's
I
at
hate
5:00, and people are showing up at 8. To me, just the way I look at it is that they don't respect the time of the person throwing the party, because they're showing up 3 hours later. It doesn't mean they're a bad person,
No.
but
You're talking about a lot of people.
no, it's just the way.
But
And
then, I don't want to get in trouble here, but in the Hispanic community, notorious.
yeah, they say there's
There's that
Mexican time.
that delay or whatever. You can call
I'm
it
half
Mexican time,
Mexican.
Cuban time, Guatemalan time. Are you?
Well,
you know
I'm
what I
half
mean?
Mexican, so I can say. But yeah, there's it's any and I'm sure many cultures have this, where you say, hey, the party's gonna be at 5:00, but they know people are gonna show up at 6 or
Well,
7.
let me tell you the opposite side of this, and this is funny. I've got in our family circle, okay, they tell me 2 o'clock, okay? They know I'm gonna show up at 1:30, okay? And I've had times when they're running late and they want to put the
Extend
party
it.
like instead of 2 or 3 or instead of 1 to 2, and they actually text me individually, hey, we're running late, so we're not gonna start at 2 because
So show up later.
I'm already on the road.
Sorry,
I remember
I'm
one
already
time
here.
I was already on the road, so Mom and I
Drive slow.
well, no, we ended up driving around the corner and waiting at the
Yeah.
Albertsons, under a tree in the shade.
But the thing is
You
that
develop that reputation.
yeah,
I'm
well,
always there
that's
early.
good though because you're dependable. People can count on you. If you say you're gonna be somewhere at a certain time, you'll be there. You'll be there early. And if you're late to everything you attend, or if you're late, and I understand life happens, and then you got family and kids and this and accidents on the road.
Oh yeah,
and all
when you
that.
got 3 kids, you want to come out the door at 1 o'clock. You start getting ready at 10. Between
So-
milk for this guy, that guy pooped, this guy's in, he fell down, he tore. I mean,
But I do think that if you're late to one thing, and how you do one thing is how you do everything to a certain extent. And I think there are some people that they'll be late to their own wedding.
oh God, well, good luck with that.
Yeah, maybe they won't be waiting. The bride or the groom
Good
won't be
luck with
waiting
that
for
one,
them.
yeah.
But
That's the one time you can't be late
that's the thing.
unless you're sending out a message, Anyway,
Yeah. I mean, I'm having fun with it, but I do
Right,
think
right.
that that's really important.
it is.
In
Well,
anything.
I was taught that if you got to the meeting on time, you were
You're
late.
late. Yeah.
That's the way I was taught. And
It's a respect of the person's time. I think that's the way I look at it.
well,
I used to take it personal. When I would set up a meeting, I had an appointment with a client,
uh-huh.
and I would say the meeting's at 2. We would set the meeting at 2. No matter how many times you confirm, some people will still be late. And I set the meeting at 2. I would get there early,
And
prep,
they weren't there.
and they'd show up late. And I used to get offended because it was immature of me.
You
at
must
first.
have been a very frustrated salesman.
Well, I would get offended because I had a meeting at 3:30.
Right.
And I would be like, "Hey, they're not respecting my time."
Well, you had another meeting, right?
Right,
At the-
or at 4 o'clock, and I had slotted out the time. But then I realized, or this is the way that I have reasoned it. This person doesn't respect my time. But how can I ask them to respect my time if they don't respect their own?
Wow.
That's the way that because
Yeah.
that's how everything in their life is probably this way. How am I gonna ask? Who am I? I'm no one special. I'm trying to sell a product, life insurance at the time. So, you do different things to try and, I would have people call them, and for people that flaked on me a couple times, I will call them like an hour before. I had an assistant call an hour before. Hey, are you gonna be there? Yeah. And some people will still be late, but then now you have to leave buffers in the schedule. So I learned it. It was immature of me to take offense.
Well,
Um,
yeah, but that's how we learn.
That's how we learn.
You know what you reminded me of now? I used to go to the 7-Eleven to get coffee, the one that was around the corner from the
Yeah.
house. And, I could have gone anywhere else, but I went there because I liked the guy that was at the cash register. It was the same guy, and he would tell me about
He was
his
from India, super strong guy.
super strong from India, young guy, and he would tell me all kinds of stories, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So what story do you have for me today? And it was just great, right? But a couple of times I went to get the coffee, and the area was filthy. Okay, it was they had the little milk things in it. They had dropped it, and then instead of throwing it away in the trash can, it was just placed there, and another little, some sugar on this side or whatever. And he had not had the time because he was very good, but he was busy with customers online or whatever. And so usually that wet towel was there. So what I would do, not often, but every now and then, you know, before I made my coffee, I wanted the area to be clean. I didn't want, to put the cup here and, oh, is that wet or where? So I would clean it, throw the stuff away with napkins. And I did it a couple of times, and he noticed, and he asked me, and he says, "Why do you do that? That's my job." And I said, "I want to feel that I'm serving my coffee in a clean slate, It's going to taste great for me. I don't want to feel that, I'm getting the coffee and the area is not prepared."
Right.
And he said, "Yeah, but, there's people like that and this and that." Yeah, but I'm not. So I remember telling him, I'm not trying to change him, but you know what? The way they get their coffee is the way their lives is. If you go to those people's homes, they probably have a mess in their home too. Not that I'm any better or any cleaner necessarily.
You're not judging. You're just making an observation.
Yeah, and so that's probably, if you want to improve things in your life,
start with the little ones.
With the little ones, and start with yourself.
Yes.
Like that song that Michael Jackson, look at the man in the mirror or the woman in the mirror. You can't, how dare you complain about anybody else if you don't have your act together?
I mean, it says
Start
a lot.
Start with yourself.
Yeah.
Fix your own problems. Make your own bed.
Yeah.
Like that general says.
And I think that it's okay to, also try and, like if you want somebody to do better or something, you can give them your 2 cents or something, but it doesn't mean that you're living a perfect life either.
No.
And there's always room for improvement.
Of course.
Like I think the words we use are very powerful. And like some people say, oh, I'm bad at this. And I say, there's room for improvement. You could be better at it.
Don't say you're bad
Don't say you're bad at something.
Because every cell in your body is listening to that. Remember we talked about that? Every cell in your body, your liver cells, your kidney cells, your brain cells, your cardiac cells, your gallbladder cells. Every cell in your body is hearing it. Yeah,
if you're willing to get better at something and try and get better at it, then say, hey, I could be better at that. Instead of I'm bad at this or that.
We've said this again. This is kind of like let's make this video good. So, Jordan Peterson says, just be a little bit better than your miserable self that you were yesterday.
Yeah, I like it.
Improve don't compare yourself with anybody else.
It doesn't lead to anything good.
Productive, yeah. So just try to get better than you were your miserable self yesterday.
I love it. How do you, and we can start wrapping up, but how do you differentiate between comparing and getting inspiration from other people?
I get inspired a lot by sometimes the things you say, but sometimes the things you do. I'm always looking for improvement, not in my life, better my life. I try to discern the sincerity in what other people say. Okay? And sometimes it's difficult. But for example, going back to the gentleman that sat next to me in that only empty chair, and when we broke for a break, when they gave us a break, and he turned to me because he saw that I was complaining, and he says, look, that was like a moment of clarity there. You know what? I knew at that moment, at that precise moment, I knew that he had given me a really good advice. I don't know how I knew that, but it felt like, you know what? That is really good advice. And sometimes those things happen to you, but that's a tough, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, because just from my perspective, It is a difficult thing to answer, but from my perspective, when I think of being inspired by
Yeah.
somebody, I think of somebody who has achieved a certain thing that I see of value.
Okay.
And usually it's not a monetary or physical thing. Usually, you know, like successful all around. And I get inspired by that person. But comparing is like, oh, they've got this many cars or this many. I usually tie it to something that they've achieved in a material thing. I think social media brings on a lot of both, but the negative side of it, it can bring on a lot of comparing of material things. This clothing, they traveled here, they went here, whatever, and maybe bring bad feelings on. Where inspiration, there are some videos that are inspiring on Instagram, but those, like the one that Dana White came out with the other day, that I thought that was a pretty powerful video our friend Peter sent to us, and or he sent to me, and you had seen it.
Which one's that?
Dana White,
Yeah, I know Dana, but
where he's coming out and he's saying to be savages.
oh,
This is the time to be savage.
Jesus.
I see that, and that's like an inspiring message.
Right. But you know, there's somebody out there, and I can't remember their name right now, and I apologize. They say that inspiration is for the birds. Okay.
Motivation. Motivation.
Oh, motivation?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
motivation.
You need discipline. That's
Correct.
what the guy says.
Yeah.
Motivation is for the birds.
Motivation comes and goes. You can go to a seminar, get all pumped up, and then it dies off.
Okay.
Motivation, yeah.
That's it. Thank you for correcting me on that. Because
No, but yeah, I was gonna say one other thing about what were we talking about? Or before talking about
inspiration,
no, prior to that, we were talking about
comparing.
no,
People that
before
have
that. It'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. But I do think, to wrap it up,
Mm-hmm. It's gonna come back to you,
You
the
never-
minute we stop the.
yeah, you
That's
never
life.
know. You never know who is gonna give you a pearl.
Yeah, I didn't
So
expect that from him.
keep your ears open.
Yeah,
And even though somebody you think has nothing to give you, you never know.
you
And
just
if you're
never know.
closed
Keep
off-
your ears and mind and pores and everything open. You
Yeah.
might get a pearl like I did. You know, I was frustrated, and maybe because I was frustrated, it hit so well.
Yeah, the
Um,
message at the right time.
And sometimes somebody gives you a piece of advice and you're not sure if that's the right move or not. But for some reason, don't ask me why, I knew that was good advice. Maybe I had been enough time with the company to realize that he was just being on the money.
Yeah.
He hit it dead on. So it was an interesting thing, you know?
Yeah.
And that came out because I was talking to Ernie, and we were talking about signage for companies and signage for businesses and ours and stuff like that. And that came up for some reason in the conversation.
Yeah.
But anyway, did you remember your thing? No, not yet?
No.
Okay.
No. But
For the next one.
for the next one, we'll bring it up. But hey, all of this is related to being inspired, motivated, taking advice, trying to live a better life. At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. And one could be a little picky and have pet peeves with certain things, but at the end of the day, I do remember, actually,
Go for it.
you talked about your friend at 7-Eleven, and he was asking you, why were you cleaning up the area, when it's not your job,
Right.
but you like a clean setting. One
He
thing
was
I thought,
pretty strong on that. He goes,
he
"Why are
was
you doing my
he didn't
job?"
understand probably
yeah.
why. But what I thought was really interesting also was that there would always be after a certain amount of time, a year, whatever amount of time, a new person working there
Yeah.
at the front.
Mm-hmm.
And I came to find out, I don't know if it was through you or through speaking to him, because he became our buddy, Sonny?
Sonny.
Yeah.
Wow. It's good memory because it's a long time ago.
He came from India.
Yes.
He was sponsored by
Right.
a uncle or somebody, and then would pay off his debt to that person for bringing him from India, and then he can go and do whatever he needed to do in the U.S. I just thought it was really interesting how at that 7-Eleven, that's what seemed to be happening, and they were helping each other.
That's right.
The person sponsoring him was from India, brought them. Now you are gonna work for me for X amount of time. Pay off your debt for me bringing you to the land of opportunity, and then you go. I thought that was.
That's
I just
very
thought that was
interesting that you bring that up.
Yeah.
And I think that in Sonny's case, I don't think that it was his real uncle. But they all call him uncle out of respect, I think.
Mm.
I think. Because he had to have had a bunch of nephews, because I ended up meeting the gentleman after. He was an older gentleman.
Yeah.
So I mean, he had like 20 nephews. So I think that out of respect,
Oh, interesting.
you know, I go to a restaurant now here in Covina, and they call me, hey, cousin. You know,
Oh.
the servers call
Yeah.
me cousin all the time. And it's pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah.
It's out of respect, you know, like they want to make you feel like in family.
Yeah.
You know, hey, primo, you know, like that. Real cool. I like it. But it depends how you say it, too.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that was interesting how they help each other.
That was
how
very
they were helping
interesting.
each other in
They
that
sponsored
in that
each other.
7-Eleven. Yeah. So, anyways,
I'm
anything
glad
else
you brought that up, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should reach out to him.
Yeah. We should.
We'll wrap it up.
He's on WhatsApp.